So, hello everyone, good day, and welcome to our discussion. So, this discussion will serve as a review of the previous lesson about social media and as well as a supplementary video for I will be adding a specific topic that will be a part of the coverage of the midterms exam. Now, for your new topic, it will cover the local and global communication in multicultural settings, more particularly on a specific model. No, so to start with our discussion, we'll have a review first of the previous discussion. Now, I believe I have already given you an activity on the user characteristics, particularly the diagram that I am showing here. So we have here a diagram of the social media user characteristics, and you've had your activity. So that means I believe you've already have a fair, like a handful idea or the prior knowledge about what this is about. Now, um, here we have in the diagram shows us the different types of social media users, right? Based on two things. So we have here the conscientiousness, meaning it refers to how responsible, how mindful, and how consistent we are when it comes to using social media. And as well as the moral tolerance. Here we have the MT, meaning how much you respect or how much you accept the different beliefs, the different values, how you recognize different perspectives that are everywhere. That could be online or that could also be offline, anywhere. Moral tolerance, that's how we refer to it. Now, depending on how high or how low you are in these two traits, you fall into one of the four categories. So let's go through each one, starting off with the narcissist. So we have here two extremes, the narcissist and the altruist. Okay, so let's start off with the negative extreme. The narcissist refers to, as what you can see in the diagram below, it's on the very bottom, particularly aligning to low conscience and very low tolerance. So both negatives. So this is a type of user who only thinks of themselves. We all know this kind of personality. When someone is narcissist, they only think of themselves. They do not recognize the mistakes that they make, but they fully recognize, or they are very particular, or they call out the mistakes of other people. And if there would be times that they would be called out for their mistakes, they would not accept that. Okay, I hope that's clear. That is very common actually, and it's everywhere. And we have somehow had an idea as to what being a narcissist is. And I hope you are not this type of person. So, a narcissist somehow is someone who's very much egoistic. So, a narcissist in social media is someone who posts for clout, okay? Someone who bashes others online, someone who do not care about the rules or the respect of other people. That could be their purpose is to attack someone harshly. That could also be to like do something nonsensical just to be recognized, just to be publicized, just to like gain public attention. So that's narcissist because you only think of yourself, although you know what you're doing is wrong, but you just do it for the sake of it, for the sake of being recognized publicly. So, an example of a narcissist social media user is someone who always brags, someone who throws hate comments for fun, just to feel powerful. And if we use social media this way, we damage not only our own credibility, but that also, most especially, the relationships, our relationship with other people and the relationships of other people. So, what should we do instead? That is, of course, we practice empathy, something that I always emphasize here. Okay, being empathetic, being understanding, recognizing, or starting off with being self aware. And then, when you are self aware, you are also aware of how other people's would feel in every, or would feel in every action that we do, in everything that we do, just knowing about the mechanisms and the dynamics of society. So before you post, you ask yourself, am I building myself up at the expense of others? Okay. So again, the cost benefit theory of rational choice theory, always remember that when we communicate with people, with other people, that could be online, offline, we have to be rational with what you do. Think about what are the consequences that comes after what we do. Okay. Next is we have here the dogmatist. So the dogmatist here has high conscience, however, it has low tolerance. So this person works hard and stands firm in what they believe in, But the problem is that they somehow fail or dismiss or fail to recognize, dismiss, or somehow neglect the perspectives of other people. Somehow it's an overlap of the narcissist. Kasi nga, as what you mentioned, narcissist is someone who only thinks about themselves. They are right. What they do is okay. So for dogmatists, it also goes the same way. They believe what I am saying is what's right. However, although your intention is good, but your approach is wrong. Okay. So example, a social media user, a person who always argues online, saying, "Ako ra gyud ang tama, the rest are wrong." Although they might be sincere, but they come across as rigid and as well as close-minded. So what do we avoid here? Thinking your truth is the only truth. Okay? You would come off as being ethnocentric here if you do that, if you do it that way. So what do we do instead? You have to stay firm in your values. However, also listen with respect. You can know what is right. You can make a point. You can share your stance about something. However, you still have to be open minded, to have that growth mindset, to have an open heart, to listen, and to be empathetic with how would other people feel about this. Do I really need to like impose myself, to force myself for them to believe me? Remember, there are certain things you cannot control. Next is we have here the nihilist, low conscience, high tolerance. So this type of person is very open to different beliefs. But the problem here is that they do not really stand for anything. Neutral lang, walang pake. So they say, okay lang, it's all good, I do not care. But then they lack action or commitment. That could be in a good way or in a bad way. In a bad way, in a sense that they just really do not care. Even if it's something that's concerning, they do not care. There are also those people who are too afraid of saying something. Okay? So for the nihilist, this could also be someone who laughs at offensive posts and justifies it as joke. So the danger here is being so passive that you do not hold people accountable. So what do we do instead? You respect others, but that is also you stand up for what is right. Okay? So you can never just be like, you can never just be passive and neglectful online. You still have to like be assertive. But remember, there is a fine line between being assertive and being aggressive. You can be assertive but not aggressive. Okay. Next is the altruist. This is um the other end of the extreme. Okay, the positive ones. Two positives: high conscience and high tolerance. Now this is the balance that we aim for. These are the users that are responsible online but also respectful of the differences. These are those people who have social linguistic competence as part of the four communicative competencies. They are aware that there are different social systems, there are different identities, there are different people with varying ages, age gaps, from minors to adults. Okay, so remember, these are those that are altruists. They use social media not just for themselves, but for the common good of the people. And they are aware that social media is an entire ecosystem that involves different people from different groups. So example, these are those people who shares helpful information, who promotes positivity, who supports diversity. They can disagree without disrespect. Okay? Remember, it's not always about positivity. They can still disagree, but they know when to put respect, to be polite with their approach. So, class, this chart somehow tells us or teaches us that when we use social media, we should not just be reactive. Okay? Be reactive in a sense, because reactive, the complete opposite of it is when we are reflective. When we are not reflective, we do not like we are not mindful, we are not intentional with what we think of. We are being reactive. React dayon, react, masuko dayon, without even like thinking of it slowly. Okay? So we should reflect on what kind of users we are what users we are right now, what we are becoming, and are we posting to help? Am I posting here to like inspire? Am I posting here to make friends with people? Or am I just posting here to make myself sound good, look good, to attack, to show off, to ignore responsibility? Remember, always aim to be an altruist, conscious of your actions, and of course, tolerant of the diversity of the differences of the people that are involved in social media. Remember, social media is an entire ecosystem that involves a lot of people, a lot of reactions, a lot of personalities, a lot of perspectives. Okay? You cannot just be there and impose what you believe is true, what you believe is right. You can control that. You cannot control the reactions of other people, but you can control how you share things, how you say things, how you like share information, how you react to situations. Okay? So think of your own social media habits right now. Which quadrant do you think you lean towards? And what steps can you make to take to move closer to being an altruist? So let's talk about something very recent that had happened. I'm sure you have seen it online, the flood control project, no? Which had caused a lot of reactions. So you see, social media exploded. Some people supported it, some people complained. About the inconvenience, and of course many had strong political opinions, which is somehow valid because that's their opinion. This shows how one event can get everyone involved, how social media can get everyone involved, each with their own fair share of perspective. Now, let's connect this with the four types of social media users. Remember, you have to be tolerant of the differences. That does not mean that you are expecting that the people in the media has the same mindset or thinking as you do have. Okay? Be tolerant of the differences. You cannot control them, but you can control yourself. Now, let's connect this with the four types, again, of social media users. So, if you are the narcissist, Kanisha, the focus of that person here in response to that situation or issue or controversy is they will just make fun of it, post memes, create content out of it for publicity, and make fun of it for no reason. Okay? Like just for them to be recognized, to be seen, to be publicized. They are not really engaging with the real issue, but more on the self-promotion. The dogmatist here is these are those type of person that are very firm with their opinion. Too firm, basta kayo they are aggressive online. Although their intention is good, they are sincere with what their point is. However, the approach is wrong. Now, here's the thing there's nothing wrong with standing up for what you believe in. In fact, it's actually good to be passionate and critical. But if you are too rigid or too aggressive, people would stop listening. People would make fun of you. People would laugh at you. You can make a strong point without shutting others down. Remember, assertive is good, but aggressive can harm the conversation. Okay, next is the nihilist. Sa nihilist, walang paki. Basta makalusot sa traffic, basta wala ko nabasa, basta I am safe, then I do not care. I do not care about long-term effects. As long as they're not personally affected, and that's fine. I do not care online. This attitude is also common, but it shows lack of social responsibility. Okay. Next is the altruist. This is the ideal one. Again, instead of ranting or ignoring, they say something like they say something that makes sense, but in a way that is gentle, in a way that is polite, in a way that would only inform them to give the people, the followers, a reflective point based on what your opinion is. Balance awareness of the present with hope for the future. Okay, you do not have to be aggressive to make a point. Okay, so this isn't just about flood projects. This could also be applied in the workplace. You will face the same dynamics. Okay, so I hope you are going to expect that as well. So the question here is that when you come across same scenarios or situations like this, how would you react to it? Will you be a narcissist? Will you be a dogmatist, a nihilist, or an altruist? Again, always remember, you can always stand up for something that is good, but do it in a way that somehow promotes solutions, not more problems. Okay. So we have to be professional as well. We have to be ethical with what we do online, and we have to be responsible, respectful, because social media, you are not only the ones that's involved there. You are not the main character there. There are a lot of people that are involved there. Okay? You cannot always force yourself to be relevant. Okay? And so now we are done with the social media characteristics. By the way, these are the summary. Now that we're done with the different social media characteristics, let us now move on to the intercultural communication. So before we go into our lesson today, I want to set the context for why we're even going through this subject. Remember that in purposive communication, we do not just study concepts, we do not just study it to memorize, to passively remember it for exams, but we study them because as college students and as future professionals, we need to embody what it means to be competent and culturally sensitive communicators. So back in our last discussion about social media, we said that social media is not just personal, but it's an entire ecosystem. It involves us instantly with people across the globe. That power, that privilege of being digitally literate comes with a huge responsibility. And part of that responsibility is not just being digitally literate, but also culturally literate, culturally aware, and culturally sensitive. Because when we talk about culture, we are not just talking about religion. It's not just about tradition. It's not just about nationality. Culture even has five key components. This involves the symbols, the language, norms, values, and technology, as highlighted in the presentation. You can read that for yourself. So, culture involves how people use language, how they express emotions, the values they live by, even the memes they laugh at. So, culture is embedded in everyday life. That means every time we talk to a friend, a stranger, a foreigner, culture is already at place. Okay. That's why I always remind you that we need to be thoughtful and mindful in everything that we say, in everything that we do, in every action we make, gestures we make, reactions we do. That could be facial reactions, whether verbal or nonverbal. One careless joke, one wrong gesture, or even one poorly phrased post can create misunderstandings. Okay? And that brings us to our topic today, which is about local and global communication in multicultural settings, more particularly focusing on the specific model I mentioned earlier about Hofstede. Okay, Hofstede. So, so first let's define what intercultural communication is. So we have here as defined by Cody Const that it is a communication between people from different cultural backgrounds. The process of exchanging information, ideas, feelings between people from different cultural backgrounds. It involves understanding and respecting cultural differences, adapting communication styles, creating an inclusive environment. Yes, that is what intercultural communication is. It's self-explanatory. But let's not stop there, because intercultural communication is not just about respect in a general sense, but it also involves the technicalities of how we communicate. When I say technicalities, I mean not only the words we choose or the language registers we use, that could be formal, casual, consultative, but also the nonverbal aspect of it. Again, what I mentioned, the gestures, tone, whatever that is involved in nonverbal, even the distance when we keep talking. So that is why intercultural communication goes just beyond being respectful. It's about being aware of both verbal and nonverbal language or communication styles. So we have here, I'm going to focus now or move on to the dimensions of cultural differences as defined by Hofstede. Okay, so intercommunication, why do miscommunications, particularly as emphasized by Hofstede in his model or concept about the dimensions of cultural differences. So the goal here is to understand why people behave differently. Hofstede gave us cultural dimensions, which would help us analyze why there is miscommunication, especially in our context in the workplace. So we have here the power distance. So when we're talking about power, I hope you are going to read the picture I'm showing you here in the slide. So in cultures with low power distance, people believe that everyone should be treated more equally. Employees would feel comfortable speaking up, sharing ideas, what else, and even challenging their boss, their leader. The leaders here are approachable, and the workplace feels more like a team, more collaborative. So it's what you can see there in the diagram and the picture. It shows that. No? Remember, in the power distance, there is what we call the high power and the low power. So as what I mentioned earlier, that was the low power, more lenient. Okay. However, on the other side, there are also cultures with high power distance. So here in this culture or in this setting, they see authority as something that is to be respected. Leaders make the decisions. Employees follow. They cannot question. There is a clear chain of command, and things tend to be really formal. The advantage here is that decisions are made quickly because it's very structured. There is sense of order, there is sense of discipline. However, the disadvantage is that the employees might feel afraid to speak up or share ideas. Innovation could be limited. Okay. Neither the style is better or worse. They are just different ways people relate to power depending on their culture. Okay. So that's why it is important that we have to understand power distance, which affects how people work together, how decisions are made, and how leaders lead. So when we work in the future, especially in global teams or mga direct workplaces, we have to be aware of the power distances that are existing. You have to observe whether it has a low power or high power distance in order for you to adjust and adapt with those people. Next is we have here the individualism and collectivism. So look at this image. On the left, the man says, you must learn to think for yourself. That is individualism. It means that people are taught to stand on their own, decide for themselves, and focus on their personal goals. On the right, the man says, you must do what is best for the family. That's collectivism. It means that the group comes first, whether that's the family, community, or workplace or team. Now, as Filipinos, we often lean towards collectivism. For example, many of us choose engineering, or many of you choose engineering because you believe, financially speaking, it would help you help your family, even if it is not your dream. But for the sake of collectivism, family first, you chose that. But nowadays, there are also these people, some of you also wanted or chose engineering because that is, you want to follow your passion. You are being individualistic. You know what is right for yourself. You have to do, or you decide for yourself because you know what you need and what you want. So, even if it's against what others expect, that is individualism. Now, in the workplace, you will see the same thing. Some companies would reward individual achievements, while others will value the collaborative effort. So, both have pros and cons, the same as well. So, the question here is, how do we balance? When do we put ourselves first, and when do we put the group first? Okay, so you have to recognize that as well. Okay, para dili ka maalkansi when you are working. Next is uncertainty avoidance. This is the last one. So, uncertainty avoidance, this simply means how comfortable or uncomfortable we are when faced with situations that we cannot fully control. Do we recognize that there are certain things we cannot control? Now, some of us like things to be perfectly planned. Perfectionists, we call it, perfectly structured. We want everything to go as scheduled, everything to go as planned, no surprises, no failures. Honestly, that is actually not bad. It shows discipline, it shows preparation, it shows passion, integrity. But let's be real. Life does not always go as planned. So for example, if you are attending, just a simple example, if you're attending a seminar, when you become professionals, you will really expect that seminars or gatherings of the team, whatever that is, you expect to just sit quietly, take notes, and then go home. That's it. Suddenly, the speaker calls your name. Can you stand and share your thoughts? Or kumbaga, your boss, your leader, your head would say, can you present this topic now? Wala na siya sa plano. Or even simple things, like for example, yung mga on, someone asks you to lead a prayer. Even that you would panic because you do not expect it to happen. That is uncertainty. And the truth is, no matter how much we plan, the unexpected will always be there. Now the question is, when you become professionals, or even now, when you come across these situations, uncertainties, are you prepared to handle it? Okay, so when you become professionals, that could be as engineers, buyag, engineers, future engineers, you will really face problems that were never part of your plan. Problems like the simple ones, a prayer, like they will ask you to present something, there will be clients who will come unannounced. So maybe the system would break down, a client would suddenly change their mind, or there is an emergency in the workplace. If you are too high, remember klasa here, there is high uncertainty avoidance and low uncertainty avoidance. High uncertainty avoidance is when you hate anything that is unplanned. What will happen here? You will freeze, you will panic, okay? Or you will avoid the situation. But if you train your mind, body, your heart to expect the unexpected, then you will respond better. You may not be perfect, but at least you are ready to adapt. Okay? So my advice to you is this. Do not be afraid of discomfort. Do not let the fear or the uncertainty stop you. Instead, you treat those experiences, those situations, those challenges as opportunities to grow balik. But again, this is very much helpful. This comes in handy, okay? So to prove that you can think on your feet. Because in real life, being adaptable is just as important as being organized. For now, you may not feel that way. You might not feel as confident as how it should be, it would be. You cannot imagine yourself as that confident person. But eventually, like, you will realize that you have come to that point already. You just need more time, more experience, more failures, more mistakes to experience for you to grow that way, for you to become more mature. You still have the time, enough time, more chances. Even there are still a lot of things that needs to be improved about myself. So, again, I'm asking you, how do you usually react when something unexpected happens? Do you freeze or do you adapt? Being adaptive, being flexible is really important pag mahimo na kang professionals. Remember, there are a lot of unexpected situations that will really come across. Okay? Especially that we are professionals, we are expected to be good at everything. Especially it's a profession, we are professionals. Okay? So, train yourself to handle these moments better. Okay? So, that is actually it for our discussion. Thank you so much for your time, for watching this video, and I hope you learned something. I'm sorry for the unnecessary na mga movements. My nose is itchy. So that is it. Thank you so much, and I good luck on your exams. Bye.